Introduction: the spectrum of three-dimensional noise. Imagine standing at the exact center of a collapsed metropolis. Close your physical eyes for a millisecond and simply listen. The air around you is not empty. It vibrates, weighs, and twists under the impact of a constant white noise. It is the deafening stridency of millions of biological minds screaming in unison. You hear their microscopic complaints, their financial fears, their rusted traumas, and their petty calculations of daily survival. It is the sound of massive entropy, the disgusting hum of a biomass consuming itself in the hysteria of the three-dimensional world. But do not open your eyes yet. Look at yourself in this cacophony. Direct your attention toward the inside of your own skull. Do you realize the brutal thermodynamic tragedy? You are screaming too. Your intellect does not shut up for a single second. You have the cynicism to consider yourself a quantum operator. You demand the unified field deliver a corporate empire and absolute sovereignty. Yet your mind emits an unbearable stridency. You spend your time calculating probabilities, ruminating on the past, debating with imaginary enemies, planning how you will convince matter to obey you. Do you really believe you can dictate the supreme laws of the ecosystem while your biological server is saturated with static? Understand the physics of your failure. In wave mechanics, when you emit disordered frequencies, you generate destructive interference. You cancel yourself out. The universe does not obey noise. Matter does not surrender to the mammal that screams the loudest, that cries the most, or that reasons the fastest. It is a physical fact. Matter only pays tribute to absolute gravitational density, and mental noise is the most gaseous, weak, and inefficient state of energy. Every time you analyze, doubt, or explain your position, you are bleeding volts. You are dissipating as residual heat the same cosmic energy you should be using to collapse your reality. This is the non-negotiable threshold of the path of knowledge. You have reached the geometric border where your intellect ceases to be your ally and reveals itself as your electromagnetic prison. Infinite intelligence does not use the syntax of your analytical mind. The cosmos will not whisper words of encouragement or explain why. The Supreme Creator makes no noise. The Creator emits a sub-bass frequency. It is a gelid, dark, non-negotiable pulse that is only born when you reach absolute thermodynamic silence. The cosmic challenge is traced beneath your shoes. The simulation demands your mental wear, but you must execute the final collapse of the ego. Are you ready to commit the greatest act of violence against your own ego? Do you have the aseptic coldness to turn off the servers of your intellect and descend into the acoustic darkness where true matter is forged? Stop narrating your existence. Enter the void. If you are not willing to go mute before the abyss, close this now. Chapter 1. The Thermodynamics of Chatter, Your Energetic Hemorrhage. The saturated processor and the voltage meter. Imagine standing in front of an immense industrial control panel, gelid and hypergeometric in design. This panel is connected directly to your central nervous system and the architecture of your mind. In the exact center, there is an analog meter with a red needle trembling violently. This meter does not track your bank account or your time. It tracks your cosmic voltage. It measures the exact amount of vital energy extracted from the zero-point field that you possess in this precise millisecond to collapse the probability wave of your empire. Look at yourself. Imagine looking at the needle of your own meter. At what level is it? Your biological ego swears you are ready. Your ego says you are ready to dominate the ashboard, but the needle is plummeting toward the red zone of entropy. Why are you empty? Why don't you have the gravitational mass necessary to force matter to obey you? The answer is a thermodynamic tragedy. You suffer from a massive energetic hemorrhage that drains your power. Imagine your analytical mind as a central processor trying to render a high-resolution hologram. You are demanding your biology project a reality of sovereignty, liquid wealth, and absolute power. But the processor is collapsing. It is at its thermal limit because you have 100 audio tracks open in your head, all playing white noise. Every time you formulate useless internal dialogue, every time you explain your plans, every time you justify your failures to others or yourself, and every time you ruminate on the future, you are opening a thermal leak. You are bleeding volts. Do you think your chatter makes you intelligent? Your analysis is just an open wound. The friction of the word. the explanatory slave syndrome. Approach the panel and silence the outside. Imagine isolating the sound of your own voice in the three-dimensional world. Look at yourself interacting with the biomass. Observe how you tell your friends about your corporate projects, how you debate with strangers online, how you try to convince your family that your vision is real. Why do you talk so much? Where does that pathetic urgency to vocalize your process come from? Your brain deceives you into believing that talking about your goals is the first step to achieving them. The slave society has programmed you to declare your dreams to the universe. This is an absolute electromagnetic heresy. It is a lie. Imagine what happens at a physical level every time you open your mouth to speak of your power before having materialized it. You are taking pure, high-density, zero-friction energy and forcing it through the vocal cords of a 3D mammal. You are turning dark matter into simple acoustic vibrations that dissipate into the air in milliseconds. You are evaporating your empire. By talking, you are releasing the thermodynamic pressure you needed to accumulate. Imagine the engine of a particle collider. To generate an atomic transmutation, scientists do not leave the valves open. They seal the tunnel in a vacuum and increase the pressure to critical levels. You are that collider. If you want matter to collapse and crystallize in the form of capital and empirical results, you need to contain the pressure. Do you have the gelid arrogance to seal your lips completely? Can you keep your intention compressed within your chest until the pressure is so massive that the universe has no choice but to spit out the result? He who has absolute power does not explain it. He exercises it. He who speaks of what he is going to do is tacitly admitting that he does not yet have the voltage to do it. Silence is the only conductor of sovereign power. Every word spoken about the unmanifested is a joule of energy stolen from the final physical collapse. The illusion of intelligence, the intellect as an obsolete tool. Turn your gaze toward the inside of your skull. If external chatter is a leak, your internal monologue is an arterial hemorrhage. Imagine listening to that constant hum, that neurotic voice that narrates your every move, judges people on the street, and repeats conversations from 5 years ago to think of what you should have said. Do you really believe that voice is you? Do you believe that frenetic activity is a sign of superior intelligence? Uninstall that lie right now. Your analytical intellect is not the creator. Your intellect is simply obsolete survival software. Evolutionarily, the prefrontal cortex developed to calculate threats, predators, and food. It is a machine designed specifically to operate from fear, scarcity, and doubt. Do you understand the gravity of your error? You are handing the keys to the unified field to hardware designed for panic. Imagine trying to produce a soundwork with pure sub-bass frequencies using a broken microphone that only picks up static. That is your intellect. Every time you try to reason your way to success, every time you calculate the 3D probabilities of your abundance, you generate destructive interference. Your analytical mind fractures the quantum wave. You annihilate your own miracle because your ego believes its petty linear calculations are superior. The short circuit of manifestation, destructive interference. Observe how the universe behaves before your noise. Imagine that you launch a command from the center of your chest. You demand a restructuring of your economy. You demand a level of lethal influence. The wave leaves you, perfect, pure, with the geometric signature of your will. But a microsecond later, your mind wakes up. Your mind says, but how will that money arrive? The market is collapsing. I don't have enough audience. What if I fail? Imagine that doubt as a second acoustic wave shot right behind the first. In wave physics, when two frequencies out of phase collide, they cancel each other out. This is destructive interference. The result is absolute zero. Nothingness. Total stagnation. The universe does not deny you your desires because you are unworthy. The universe denies you your desires because it does not understand you. Your signal is schizophrenic. You are sending a directive of sovereignty mixed with 1,000 frequencies of terror. The 3D inert matter, receiving this corrupt code, simply freezes in the form of your current reality. You yourself are sabotaging the aerodynamic speed of your own life. How long will you allow your brain to keep you kidnapped in analysis paralysis? The how is jurisdiction of quantum physics, not your pathetic mind. The electromagnetic tourniquet, suffocating the mind. To stop this energetic hemorrhage, you have to commit an act of unprecedented interior brutality. You have to apply an electromagnetic tourniquet to your own brain. You cannot negotiate with the noise. You cannot tell your mind to calm down a bit. You have to suffocate it. You must cut the fuel to the narrator. Imagine falling to your knees in the middle of the deafening noise of your own thoughts. The chatter is so intense, it makes you dizzy. Close your physical eyes. You are about to execute the blackout of the biological servers. Feel that desperate impulse in your throat and brain to label what you are feeling. Cut it. Imagine wielding a sword of aseptic indifference. Become the executioner of your own concepts. Every time a thought tries to peek out, every time a justification tries to form on your mental screen, decapitate it. Do not analyze it. Do not judge it. Do not feel guilty. Simply withdraw the power supply from it. Imagine that you are silencing, track by track, the sequencer of your mind. Turn off the track of the future. Mute. Turn off the track of your past traumas. Mute. Turn off the track of your corporate identity. Mute. Do you feel the vertigo? As you stop injecting thoughts into your skull, observe the thermodynamics. The white noise loses strength. The screams of your ego become harmless murmurs. The murmurs evaporate into whispers, and the whispers die for lack of friction. Can you endure the mammalian terror of thinking absolutely nothing? In that silence, you are no longer a reactor. You are the space where creation begins. The abyss of silence, preparing the ground. Imagine the exact millisecond in which you formulate the last biological thought and let it die of starvation. The last echo of your intellect hits the walls of your skull and disintegrates into quantum dust. Suddenly, the silence is total. But beware. Do not confuse this silence with the false peace of the biomass. This is not the silence of relaxing in a spa. It is not the passive meditation of the weak. Imagine feeling the overwhelming, heavy, and gravitational density of this state. You are in acoustic darkness, the place where entropy is zero. In this absolute vacuum, the needle on your meter begins to shoot upward. Imagine seeing your voltage recover at a terrifying speed. All the kinetic energy you use to dissipate in talking nonsense, in worrying, in defending your fragile identity on social media, now condenses in your geometric center. You are becoming massive. Your body feels like a block of lead and titanium. You are radiating pure power in repose. Do you realize the lethal weapon you have just forged? You have healed the hemorrhage. You have closed the fissure of your nuclear reactor. You have moved from a gaseous state of distraction to a solid state of presence. The ground is now sterile and ready for the seed. The prelude to the sub-bass frequency. Look at yourself in this state of gelid mental immobility. There is no more monologue. There is no more need to explain to the world who you are or where you are going. Your exterior silence and interior vacuum have created the perfect and echoic chamber. The terrain is completely sterilized. You are a sovereign node. You are ready. Now that the stridency has died, the unified field can finally communicate with you. And the way it does so will freeze your blood. The universe does not speak to you with words. It does not use motivational phrases. It communicates through a pure vibration, a thermodynamic oscillation of the void. It can only be perceived when the biological mind has been subjected to the dictatorship of the vacuum. You have crossed the first threshold of the path of knowledge. You have eradicated the thermodynamics of chatter. Now, imagine standing in the blackness of your own silence, waiting for the first pulse. The white noise has been annihilated forever. Prepare yourself, because from the darkest and coldest depths of point zero, the only vibration that has authority over matter is about to emerge, the sub-bass frequency of the Creator. Keep your mouth closed, keep your mind turned off, and advance. Chapter 2. The false zen of the biomass, the illusion of peace. The threshold of incense and cowardice. You have just suffocated the chatter of your intellect. You have closed the thermodynamic fissure through which your cosmic voltage was bleeding out, and silence has begun to install itself in your skull. Imagine advancing now toward the second stratum of this path of knowledge. The 3D hologram knows you have stopped talking, but it won't give up. If it could not destroy you with noise, it will try to neutralize you with false peace. Imagine standing before the next door. It is not made of steel or iron. It is a soft wooden door, decorated with symmetrical mandalas and mystical symbols. From the other side leaks a dense smell of cheap incense and the hypnotic sound of singing bowls. Your biological instinct, exhausted by the friction of the corporate world and scarcity, feels immediate relief. You think, here is spirituality, here is rest. Open the door. Imagine crossing the threshold and entering an immense hall bathed in dim pastel light. The floor is covered in cushions. Imagine thousands of people in lotus position. They are smiling placidly, breathing with calculated slowness. It is the human biomass in its state of maximum spiritual elevation. But sharpen your quantum senses. Close your physical eyes and scan the room with your electromagnetic field. Do you feel the true thermodynamics of this place? Under the incense, it smells of financial panic. Under the soft music, you hear the creaking of thousands of nervous systems collapsed by debt, lack of purpose, and impotence. Those smiles are not of enlightenment, they are a grimace of anesthesia. Look at them well. They are using 3D spirituality as a biological sedative, so they do not have to face the ashboard that is devouring them. Are you going to sit on a cushion next to them? Will you imitate the passive and cowardly spirituality of the herd? Or will you shatter this illusion with the ballistic coldness of a quantum operator? This room is a trap for those who fear their own power. It is the hospital of the simulation, where the creators go to sleep in a pink fog. The loser's anesthesia, the fraud of light and love. Walk among them. Imagine observing one of these enlightened mammals. If you ask what they seek, they will tell you with a soft voice that they seek to let go, to flow with the universe, to make the mind go blank, and to vibrate in light and love. Do you comprehend the physical aberration that these phrases represent? The universe does not flow passively. The universe is a thermodynamic engine of incalculable geometric violence, where dark matter shatters galaxies and gravity collapses stars into black holes. The spirituality of the biomass, the mass-market New Age, is a corrupt code designed by the system itself to castrate potential creators. They teach that desiring absolute power is ego, that corporate ambition is low vibration, and that true mastery is accepting poverty with a glass smile. Imagine the convenience of this philosophy for the Matrix. If you convince a god that using his power is a sin, you turn him into a voluntary slave. He becomes harmless. Every time you sit to meditate to escape the stress of a bill you cannot pay or a client who rejected you, you are committing an electromagnetic heresy. You are using the most lethal tool of the cosmos, your consciousness connected to the unified field, as if it were a cheap painkiller. You are turning off the fire alarm. You are turning off the alarm instead of putting out the fire. Look at yourself in this hall. How do you have the nerve to call yourself the architect of your reality if your version of peace is simply the cowardice of not looking at the empirical results of your life? Spirituality that does not transform solid matter is a lie. If your high vibration does not translate mathematically into financial liquidity, high-performance alliances, immaculate cellular health, and territorial dominance, then you are not enlightened. You are drugged with your own neurochemicals. You are a biological organism avoiding the friction of the board through a hallucination. The gaseous state of the mind, the trap of relaxing. Imagine that one of these spiritual mannequins invites you to sit, asks you to relax your muscles, to release the tension, and to let your mind fly to the clouds. Stop right there. Analyze the physics of relaxation. In classical thermodynamics, when a system releases its tension, it reaches thermodynamic equilibrium. At a cosmic level, perfect thermodynamic equilibrium is known as the heat death of the universe, the state of maximum entropy where no energy is available to perform any work. Nothing moves, nothing is created. When you sit to meditate to relax completely, you are inducing your auric field into a temporary heat death. You become flaccid at an electromagnetic level. Your energy expands, dissipates, becomes gaseous, and loses all its gravitational mass. Yes, you feel at peace, because you have lowered the voltage of your system to zero. A corpse is also at peace. Is that what you want? Do you want to be harmless to the hologram? The false Zen of the biomass asks you to renounce your density so you do not feel the pain of 3D friction. It asks you to become smoke. But smoke cannot sculpt steel. Smoke cannot bend the economy. Smoke cannot dictate the laws of the ashboard. Imagine rejecting the cushion. Stand with a mathematical rigidity. The quantum operator does not meditate to evade the matrix. He meditates to infiltrate its source code and hack it. He maintains his structure. He refuses to dissolve into the pastel fog of the herd. He remains solid, a high-pressure node in a world of dissipating gases. He is the needle in the center of the compass. Geometric tension, the predator's physics. If relaxation is a thermal leak, what is the true nature of creator silence? Imagine an apex predator in its natural habitat, seconds before collapsing the distance onto its prey. Visualize a Siberian tiger or a black mamba. Are they relaxed? Are they flowing with the love of the universe? No, they are in tension. They are in a state of perfect geometric tension, not a single millimeter of wasted movement, no anxiety, no fear, no chatter in their minds, but their silence is not a flaccid silence, it is hypercondensed. Every cell of their biology is charged with maximum voltage contained in a gelid immobility before the impact. That is the posture of the monarch before the zero-point field. Imagine closing your eyes in the hall of relaxed biomass. You will not make your mind blank like a useless canvas. You will apply a brutal compression force upon your own energy. Imagine grabbing all that quantum energy and forcing it to collapse. Force it to collapse toward the exact center of your chest. Imagine condensing your auric field. Stop being smoke and become hyperdense osmium. Feel how the temperature of your consciousness drops to absolute zero, where the electrons of matter become superconductors. In this state, you are not relaxed. You are calibrated. You are a sniper's bullet in the chamber, surrounded by a perfect acoustic void, waiting for the exact millisecond for the universe's firing pin to detonate your will in the 3D hologram. Can you feel the thermodynamic difference? The peace of the slave is the anesthesia of pain. Your peace is the silence of a loaded weapon, the purge of the cosmic martyr, the end of karma. While you hold this lethal geometric tension, imagine the voices of false spirituality around you trying to infiltrate your shielding. They whisper the most poisonous lie programmed in the Oriental matrix, the lie of karma as punishment and poverty as virtue. They say, accept your scarcity to purify your soul. How can you stand to listen to such a cosmic humiliation? Imagine executing a collapse of geometric contempt against this idea. Karma, as the biomass understands it, is a debt control system designed to keep souls chained to the 3D hamster wheel. It is the spiritual equivalent of a credit bureau. It is a leash. Do you, the supreme creator interacting with yourself, believe you owe yourself anything for a holographic error committed in a timeline that no longer exists? Imagine applying aseptic indifference to guilt. Pain does not purify. Pain causes more entropy. Poverty does not make you elevated. It makes you vulnerable. It drains the volts you need to access the sub-bass frequency. Look at them, clinging to their karmas, in love with their own tragedy, convinced the universe is a strict judge. There is no judge. The throne is empty. The only judge keeping you kneeling at the ATM and begging for approval is your own fear. Imagine decapitating the concept of karma right now. You are a quantum entity operating in the eternal now. You have no past. You have no debts. You are thermodynamically innocent, free, and dangerously unpunished. You are a primary force, and a primary force does not pay interest on the illusions of the dead. The acoustics of the false peace fracturing. As your geometric tension increases and your gravitational mass densifies, the hall of the biomass begins to destabilize. The illusion cannot hold against the presence of a hyperdense organism operating in the path of knowledge. Imagine how the smell of cheap incense turns rancid, the singing bowls sound out of tune. The music becomes strident, losing its hypnotic rhythm. The meditators around you begin to move restlessly on their cushions, opening their eyes with expressions of panic. Your gelid and ruthless immobility is generating an atmospheric pressure their weak auric fields cannot withstand. They feel the lethal voltage. They feel the voltage of an operator who is not asking for permission to integrate into the universe, but is demanding the surrender of matter. By refusing to participate in their sedative hallucination, you expose their failure. Imagine standing up slowly. You do not need to speak to shame them. Your posture is enough. Your verticality, your acoustic silence that seeks not to evade but to conquer, is a direct insult to their cowardice. You are the physical refutation of their false zen. Imagine advancing toward the exit door at the other end. No one stops you. The mass moves away by magnetic repulsion. You are leaving the kindergarten. Preparing the ground, the vertigo before zero. Imagine grabbing the knob of the exit door. As you open it, you leave the pastel hall behind and plunge again into the dark and cold hallway of your own immensity. You have killed the chatter of the mind and annihilated the temptation of false peace. You have stripped away the sedative. There are no distractions left. There are no words, no noise, no incense, no soft music, no cheap philosophies to protect you from the naked truth. You are alone in the thermodynamic blackness, and here is where the biomass breaks with terror. When you remove the noise and the anesthesia, what remains is an infinite abyss of responsibility. Imagine standing in that blackness, feel the vertigo, feel the primal terror of having absolutely nothing to cling to. You have unplugged the hologram from the servers of your mind, but you have not yet activated the creator core. You are suspended in free fall toward the zero-point field. The second illusion has died. You have comprehended that the peace of the creator is the maximum tension before the cosmic burst. Do you have the ballistic coldness to keep descending? Can you endure the suffocation of abandoning your spiritual lies and facing the absolute void without screaming? The sub-bass frequency is waiting at the bottom. Chapter 3. Descent into Point Zero, turning off the matrix. The threshold of sensory deprivation. You have annihilated the chatter of your intellect and spat upon the false peace of the biomass. You have left behind the room of incense and spiritual sedatives. Now you find yourself back in the hallway, but the architecture of space has changed. There are no longer walls, floor, or ceiling. The 3D hologram has stopped rendering around you. Imagine standing on the edge of an abyss of absolute blackness. There is no visible light, no temperature, no sound. It is the exact border between the illusion of matter and the immensity of the zero-point field. The matrix you live in is not a simulation. It is not a sci-fi computer simulation. It is the operating system of your 5 biological senses, decoding photons, sound waves, and mechanical resistance to convince you that the outer world is solid. While your senses are connected to that server, you are a slave. You are an effect, not a cause. Are you ready to disconnect the cables? Imagine peering into the abyss. There is no safety net. Taking the step means initiating the manual blackout of your own local universe. It means diving into acoustic and visual darkness to find the true conscious matter. If your ego is afraid, go back now. Advance into the void. The panic of biological hardware, 3D withdrawal syndrome. Imagine the exact millisecond you step into the void. You are in free fall. At first, your mammalian brain does not understand what is happening. Evolutionarily, it is designed to scan the environment for threats. It needs to see walls to calculate distances. It needs to hear noises to anticipate predators. It needs to feel gravity to know where up and down are. But here, in this quantum fall, you have cut off the data supply. Imagine observing how your nervous system enters a state of thermodynamic panic. It is the withdrawal syndrome of the hologram. Your brain, desperate for stimuli, begins to project hallucinations. It starts throwing bursts of memory at you. You see your phone screen, you hear the voices of debtors, you feel the touch of your clothes, you smell this morning's coffee. Your ego screams, think of something, remember who you are, don't lose control. Look at yourself in this fall. Will you yield to panic? Will you grab onto those junk projections just because you are terrified of lacking coordinates? The human biomass goes mad here. They cannot stand sensory deprivation. They cannot stay 10 minutes in a dark room without seeking a screen to anesthetize their existential anguish because they fear the silence. They know that if the external noise stops, they will have to face the suffocating mediocrity of their interior. But you are on the path of knowledge. You do not flee the vacuum. You claim it as your territory. Imagine imposing a gelid dictatorship over your nervous system. Execute the blackout order now. Disconnecting the server, the strangulation of the senses. To accelerate the fall toward point zero, you have to voluntarily strangle the input channels of the matrix. You have to commit a tactical blackout of your perception. Imagine falling in the blackness and taking your attention, aseptic and cold, toward your eyes. Your optic nerve is still searching. It searches for light in the darkness, dissipating energy. Issue the quantum order. Visual power cut. Imagine disconnecting the cable. Stop looking for shapes. Assimilate the darkness not as a lack of light, but as a canvas of hyper-dense dark matter. Now, take your attention to your ears. Your brain is still trying to amplify your heartbeat or blood flow to have something to listen to. Execute the mandate. Acoustic power cut. Imagine sealing your auditory canals in a perfect anechoic chamber. The silence becomes deafening, solid, lethal. Follow with touch. Feel the illusion of air brushing your holographic skin, and then turn it off. Detach your consciousness from the border of your epidermis. Imagine you no longer feel where your biological body ends and the void begins. The border dissolves. Gravity loses jurisdiction over your mass. You are no longer a body. Can you endure the electromagnetic claustrophobia of not having a body to return to? By disconnecting the senses, you have closed the windows of the prison. The 3D hologram of society, problems, the market, and money has just been extinguished in your local server. You are completely isolated from the ashboard. The skinning of identity, death of the avatar. But the fall does not stop. Turning off the physical senses is only the first layer. To touch the bedrock of point zero, you have to let go of a much heavier, more poisonous ballast, your own three-dimensional identity. As you descend through this abyss without coordinates, the thermal speed increases. Imagine quantum friction starting to tear pieces of your ego away. Your name, who are you? Who cares about your birth name down here? Your name is just a barcode the biomass uses to identify you in the fiscal slaughterhouse. Let it go. Imagine seeing your name disintegrate in the vacuum like burning paper. Your biography, everything you have suffered, all the diplomas on your wall, all your broken or successful businesses, your childhood traumas, all of that is dead weight. It is rusted software belonging to a timeline from which you are disconnecting. Do you fear the nothing so much you cling to humiliation? Skin your biography. Look at yourself stripping away the labels of CEO, creator, victim, father, son, expert. Withdraw their power supply. Each time you let go of one of these titles, you feel your consciousness become infinitely lighter and at the same time, terrifyingly denser. Do you feel the agony of the biological ego as it is uninstalled? It is screaming because it is dying. Let it die. The quantum operator cannot collapse a new empire if he still inhabits the corpse of his past identity. You are returning to the factory state of your divine consciousness. You are a blank sheet. You are a blank sheet sharpened with lethal geometry. You are an organism without personal history, and therefore an organism impossible for the matrix to predict or control. In the vacuum of your no-name, you are invulnerable. You have reached the state of raw data before the program begins. Thermal impact, the bedrock of point zero. Keep falling. There is no longer light. There is no longer sound. There is no longer gravity. There is no longer a name. You are a point of pure observation, a quantum of conscious matter suspended in vacuity. And then the impact occurs. It is not a physical blow that breaks bones. You have no bones. It is a thermodynamic impact, an absolute break. Imagine the exact millisecond your consciousness collides with the bedrock of the local universe. The zero-point field. The biomass, in its absolute ignorance, believes that the quantum vacuum is nothingness. They believe it is a dead and sterile space, but you, having just impacted it, realize the majestic and terrifying truth of theoretical physics. The quantum vacuum is not empty. It is a hyper-dense ocean of fluctuating probability waves. It is the infinite battery of the cosmos. It boils with a latent energy so immense that a single cubic centimeter contains the voltage to evaporate the Earth's oceans. Feel the texture of this place. You are in the boiler room of existence. All the liquid capital you desire, all the empires, exist here in pure mathematical oscillation. They wait for an observer with enough gravitational mass to collapse them into solid form. By stripping away your miserable identity and your 3D fear, you have managed to descend here without disintegrating. You are now in phase with the source of all density. You have reached the core of the machine. The cradle of infinite intelligence, creator safe mode. Imagine stabilizing in the absolute immobility of this cosmic bottom. There is no chatter here. You cannot think in the language of humans here because human language is too slow, noisy, and primitive to process the information of this stratum. Here, infinite intelligence does not use words. It does not communicate through mystical downloads. It communicates through ballistic certainties. It is a state where you don't think about things, you simply know them. It is instantaneous geometric comprehension. You have restarted the universe in safe mode. Do you feel the power of doing nothing? Imagine floating in this hyper-dense ether, knowing that on the ashboard up there, your physical body seems to be sitting in a chair, motionless. Society thinks you are inactive. The economy thinks you are wasting time. But you are the most lethal entity on the planet. You are recharging from the source. Look at yourself in the abyss. You are completely aseptic. You have turned off the outer matrix and uninstalled the defective software of your ego. The architecture of your mind is now a canvas of black obsidian, pure and without stridency, ready to process high-frequency codes. The descent is over. You have touched point zero. The terrain has been sterilized of all biological entropy. You have assimilated the darkness. Now imagine feeling how, from this absolute blackness, the pressure begins to increase in the center of your chest. Prepare to emit the first pulse, the start of your magnetic dictatorship. Chapter 4. The friction of the word, the creating secret. The threshold of the broken valve. You have touched the bottom of the abyss. You have descended to point zero, turning off the servers of your 3D senses and uninstalling the personal history of your ego. Now you have direct access to the boiler room of the unified field. You have charged yourself with dark matter, that latent zero-friction energy that precedes creation. But the hallway of probabilities does not forgive thermal stupidity. Imagine emerging from that state of vacuum. You open your eyes. You reconnect your senses to the ashboard. You feel the cosmic voltage buzzing in your cells. You have a lethal corporate idea. You have the exact design to alter your financial reality or your empire. What is the first thing your biological programming does? Instinctively, you take out your phone. You call a friend. You send a message to your partner. You sit at the table and tell your family what you are going to achieve. You open your mouth and begin to explain the empire you just conceived in the silence. It is a mistake. Imagine the control panel of your vital energy. In the exact millisecond you pronounce the first syllable about your unmanifested project, an immense safety valve breaks. The needle of your voltage, which was at critical levels of absolute power, plummets toward the vacuum. Do you smell the smoke? That is your creation evaporating. You are dissipating liquid capital, sovereignty, and territorial dominance in simple and vulgar sound waves. Are you going to continue vomiting your power into the air, or are you going to learn the gelid discipline of the creating secret? Every word spoken is a leak. Every explanation is a drop in the pressure of your manifestation. The heresy of the three-dimensional declaration. The human biomass, infected by false spirituality and mass-market esotericism, has programmed you with a lethal lie. They have told you that you must declare your dreams to the universe, that you must speak of your goals out loud so that reality hears you. Analyze the electromagnetic aberration of this advice. The unified field has no physical ears. It does not understand Spanish, English, or French. The universe does not respond to the acoustics of your vocal cords vibrating at a mediocre 100 Hz. The cosmos obeys exclusively the density of your gravitational mass and the geometric tension of your contained intention. Imagine what physically happens when you speak of your goals. You have a perfect and pure quantum probability wave pulsing in the center of your chest. It is ready to collapse into solid matter, money, alliances, structures, but instead of enduring the pressure, you translate it into words. You are downgrading the source code. You are downgrading a multidimensional source code to a simple acoustic vibration that hits the oxygen molecules and dies 3 meters away. The word does not materialize the future. The premature word aborts it. You are taking the atomic gold of your consciousness and trading it for cheap vapor. You are losing your mass. Every time you explain what you're going to do, your reptilian brain receives a microdose of dopamine. It feels the biological satisfaction of having done something, when in thermodynamic reality, you haven't moved a single electron. You are an addict to acoustic validation. You are a gaseous being without real impact. The physics of compression, the engine of blood and steel. Why is the creating secret non-negotiable in the path of knowledge? For pure and aseptic thermodynamics, imagine the design of a Victorian steam engine or a modern nuclear reactor core. What is the basic principle that generates driving force? Contention. The water is boiled or the atom is split within a shielded vessel. It is hermetically sealed. As energy increases, the pressure against the walls becomes unbearable. Since the system allows no leaks, that immense accumulated pressure is forced to seek the only escape route designed by the engineer. Push the piston, move the turbine, generate raw work. That is how empires are built. What happens if you poke a hole in the vessel ahead of time? The pressure escapes whistling. It makes a sharp and annoying noise, but the turbine does not move. There is no work. There is no empire. Your body and your auric field are that containment vessel. The unmanifested idea is the hyperdense fuel. When you maintain absolute secrecy, when you refuse to share your vision with the biomass, the electromagnetic pressure inside you begins to increase. It grows every day. It becomes uncomfortable. You feel like you are going to explode because you want to scream your brilliance to the world. You want the applause. Endure the pressure. Imagine clenching your teeth and sealing your lips with a titanium lock. Do not let the valve whistle. Convert that suffocation, that geometric tension, into a tactical ram. By not having an acoustic leak, the unified field is forced to release that pressure by pushing the turbine of 3D reality. You force dark matter to precipitate in the form of synchronicity, high-voltage opportunities, and financial liquidity, simply because the universe abhors unresolved tension and has to collapse your hologram to relieve it. Silence is the pump that increases the pressure of your will until the matrix has to yield. Frequential theft, the observer interference. There is a second reason, even more lethal, why you must keep your mouth shut, the observer effect. In the quantum physics of conscious matter, the particle changes its behavior depending on who is looking at it. Imagine that you tell your master corporate project to a relative or a friend you have made a mistake. In the millisecond the sound waves of your voice enter their eardrums and are processed by their brain, you have entangled your quantum state with theirs. Look at them well. Observe their thermodynamic level. 99% of the human biomass operates from a matrix of absolute scarcity. They live terrified by the economy. They distrust success, fear failure, and their blood is poisoned with mediocrity. When you tell them your vision, their mind processes it through their own filters of misery. They look at you, smile, and say, "What a good idea, I hope you have luck." But what does their auric field emit in that millisecond? Their field emits doubt. It emits subconscious envy. It emits fear for you. You have just allowed a low-frequency organism to observe your probability wave. By observing it with their eyes infected with scarcity, their gravitational mass, however small, exerts friction on your project. They freeze your miracle. They have just stolen your momentum. The famous evil eye or the envy of ancient mystical traditions is not black magic. It is pure and raw destructive quantum interference caused by the collapse of an inefficient observer. Why do you give the source code of your empire to minds that barely have energy for rent? By revealing your coordinates to the biomass, you are inviting chaos to design your architecture. You are an electromagnetic coward who prefers to beg for a pat on the back rather than endure the isolation of greatness. You are letting the noise of the herd contaminate the purity of your crystalline intent. The bismuth seal, the punishment of voluntary suffocation. To traverse this fourth illusion, you have to subject your tongue to the dictatorship of the quantum operator. You have to apply the bismuth seal. Bismuth is a heavy diamagnetic metal that repels lines of external magnetic fields. Imagine forging a plate of this material in your throat. You are now impenetrable. From this millisecond on, the golden rule of the path of knowledge is engraved in your marrow. No one, under any circumstances, knows your moves until the impact crater has already been sculpted in the earth. Imagine yourself in your daily life, surrounded by people boasting about their small achievements. Your biological ego writhes in pain. You want to scream at them that you have access to dark matter, that you are about to materialize a capital they wouldn't see in 10 incarnations. You want to prove your worth. Feel the burning in your throat. And now, execute it. Swallow your pride. It is fuel. Look at them with aseptic indifference. Smile with the coldness of a matrix assassin and respond with trivialities. Talk about the weather. Talk about inconsequential news. Use a camouflage of acoustic mediocrity. Can you endure the humiliation of the biomass considering you just another member of the herd? Can you endure it while you, in silence, are rewriting the geometry of the local universe? The true sovereign does not need the approval of plastic mannequins. The quantum operator feeds on that contempt. Every time you suppress the impulse to speak, you inject 10,000 more volts into your reactor. Your electromagnetic field becomes so massive, so dense, and so opaque to 3D radar that reality loses its ability to anticipate your strikes. You are invisible until the millisecond of detonation. You are a shadow with the mass of a star, moving through a world of gaseous organisms who see nothing coming. The thunder of the empirical result, the only authorized voice. If you cannot speak, how do you communicate with the ashboard? You do not communicate with words, you communicate with mass. You communicate with the unnegotiable weight of collapsed matter. Imagine maintaining the creating secret for weeks, months. The thermodynamic pressure inside you is astronomical. You have channeled all that contained friction into Wu Wei, operating in the market without emitting a sound, altering synchronicities from the vacuum. And then, the universe can bear no more. The hologram yields. Imagine the moment when liquid capital floods your accounts. The empire becomes undeniable. Imagine the moment when the international corporate alliance is sealed with real signatures. The moment when your empire becomes physically undeniable and casts a shadow in the 3D world. That is the only permitted thunder. Imagine the face of the biomass when they stumble upon your reality. You didn't warn them. You didn't ask for their opinion. You didn't narrate your process on social media like a slave seeking attention. They simply woke up one day and found a geometric colossus that appeared out of nowhere in the middle of their pathetic linear world. They will try to understand. They will say, you were lucky. They will say you cheated the system because their biological processor cannot conceive the lethality of an organism that operates from zero friction and absolute secrecy. Your success is the only explanation you will ever give. The materialization of your will is the only sound that has authority in the field. The acoustics of the silent assassin. Imagine standing in your room alone. You have eradicated the hemorrhage of external chatter. You have purged the destructive interference of the biomass. Your nuclear reactor is sealed, shielded, and the meter of your voltage marks levels of unbearable negative entropy for the simulation. You are a singularity. Look at your hands. They are no longer tools for gesturing or pleading. They are the download terminals of your geometric tension. You have annihilated the need to justify your existence through the voice. You have become the hyper-dense abyss that does not explain its tides, but drowns ships with them. You are the silent architect. The hallway is now colder and your density is higher. You carry the secret as a scepter of power. Every door you have crossed has stripped you of a human weakness. Now you move with the weight of the unmanifested. Advance. The next door demands even more of your essence. Chapter 5. The Pragmatic Collapse. The Brutality of Results. The threshold of empirical truth. You have silenced the machine. You have descended to point zero, sealed the valve of your mouth, and contained the atomic pressure of the creating secret. You feel powerful in the darkness. You feel you dominate quantum energy because you stabilized your mind. But the hallway drags you toward the fifth test. This test has no mercy for armchair mystics. Imagine opening your eyes. You are no longer in the blackness of the void. You are standing in the geometric center of the three-dimensional ashboard. You are in front of the boardroom of your own corporate, financial, and structural reality. There is no incense here. There are no mantras. The light is raw, clinical, and lethal. In front of you is an obsidian table, and upon it, a single document requiring your signature. The general balance sheet of your physical existence. Imagine looking at the numbers. Look at the liquidity of your accounts. Look at your strategic alliances. Look at the geographic expansion of your domains. What does the document say? Does it say you are an incarnate god, or does it say you barely make it to the end of the month? Do you feel that knot of biological humiliation in your stomach? That is the brutality of the empirical result. The universe demands performance. The 3D universe does not obey your good intentions, nor does it care how many hours you spent meditating. It demands yields. Are you ready to take your sub-base frequency and use it as a tactical ram against matter? Or are you going to hide in the world of ideas because solid reality terrifies you? The heresy of the poor mystic, the fraud of sterile energy. The human biomass has infected the matrix with the worst thermodynamic heresy ever conceived. The belief that the spiritual world and the material world are separate. They have told you it is okay not to have financial results because you are focused on your interior. Imagine shattering this fallacy. In the physics of the unified field, matter is nothing more than condensed energy vibrating at a slower frequency. Capital, liquid resources, buildings, and corporations are not alien to the spirit. They are the exact, heavy, and undeniable crystallization of your internal voltage. If your mind is at point zero, you must show it. If your bank account is in the red and your business does not dominate its sector, then your enlightenment is a pathetic hallucination. You are a generator spinning in a vacuum without connecting to the power grid. It is useless to have access to the source code if you cannot write a program that alters the hologram. Look at yourself justifying your lack of results. Money is not what's important, the ego whispers, to protect you from the pain of your incompetence. How do you have the cynicism to call yourself a quantum operator if you cannot force a handful of digital numbers to transfer to your local server? Mysticism without 3D mastery is just mental masturbation. It is cowardice disguised as virtue. The true creator is pragmatic, brutal, and lethally efficient. His results are not debated. They are measured in mass, in volume, and in ballistic impact upon the ashboard. You are the sum of your measurable effects. The tactical RAM, sub-base frequency in combat. To survive this boardroom, you must stop treating your quantum state as a refuge of peace and start using it as a siege weapon. You must apply the pragmatic collapse. Imagine you are in the middle of a critical corporate negotiation, facing a resistant client, a market crisis, or a competitor trying to devour you. Your mammalian brain, programmed for fear, wants to react. It wants you to speak faster, offer discounts, plead, get stressed, and fight for the sale. Stop. Freeze your biology. Imagine closing all the hatches of your nervous system. Instead of externalizing your stress, reverse the current. Descend instantly to your sub-base frequency, that dark, inaudible, and massive hum you cultivated in the void. Do not use it to relax. Use it as an electromagnetic ram. Aim that frequency directly against the structure of the situation. Imagine emitting a shockwave so dense it alters the atmospheric pressure. You do not convince with words, you crush with gravity. Observe what happens to the biomass when you subject it to this level of zero friction. Your competitor doubts, your client feels an irrational urge to yield, and logistical obstacles crumble. They cannot withstand an organism that emits no fear or need. They are forced to collapse into the form of your will. You do not win the war by sweating. You win the war by altering the mathematics of the battlefield so that victory is the only thermodynamic conclusion possible. You are the architect of the collapse, not the victim of the struggle. Gelid efficiency, murdering passion and the struggle. The biomass has injected you with another virus, the culture of passionate effort. They tell you that you must work with passion, that you must give your all, and that suffering validates your success. Analyze this with the aseptic indifference of the sage. Emotion is thermal instability. Passion is a noisy flame that burns oxygen and leaves ashes. When you operate a business from emotion, your results fluctuate with your mood. One day you are euphoric and produce, the next you are depressed and destroy. You are an unstable reactor about to melt down. You are a liability to your own empire. The pragmatic collapse demands the total amputation of your emotions in front of the board of results. Imagine executing your financial moves with the same clinical coldness a surgeon uses to cut tissue. You do not love money, you manage it because it is the blood of the matrix. You do not hate the competition. You annihilate it structurally without dedicating a single accelerated heartbeat to it. Can you conceive of the power of operating without emotional friction? Imagine waking up and executing the codes of your empire, not because you are motivated, but because it is math. You become a high-precision quantum automaton. The 3D competition, driven by fear or greed, will see you move and feel terror. Your movements will seem dictated by a hyper-intelligent machine that does not tire, does not get frustrated, and does not make mistakes out of desperation. You are a cold vector. Contempt for minor metrics, raising the standard. Look at yourself in the boardroom of your mind. The balance sheet remains on the obsidian table. If you have been celebrating small victories to console your ego, stop right now. Imagine erasing those pathetic numbers with a gesture of geometric contempt. The biomass celebrates crumbs. They celebrate paying a debt, a small raise, or a month without red ink. They settle for scraps because they do not understand their own thermodynamic magnitude. When you celebrate the minuscule, you instruct the field. This is my processing limit. Do not send me more density, I cannot contain it. The quantum operator does not celebrate the ordinary. Does a black hole throw a party when it swallows an asteroid? No. Its gravity is so absolute that devouring planets is simply its mechanical routine. Imagine adjusting your internal thermostat toward a brutal and ruthless standard. Accustom your nervous system to expect millions, international alliances, and total sector dominance. You do not expect it with anxiety. You expect it with the gelid and bored certainty of one who knows the laws of physics. When massive success hits, you will not scream for joy. You will look at it, sign the obsidian document, and emit the next command. You know that result was not a miracle or a blessing. It was the mathematical, inevitable, and boring precipitation of your own sub-base frequency. You are the destination of the mass you have summoned. Lethal synchronicity when the hologram surrenders. How does the pragmatic collapse look when the universe finally submits to your gravity? It does not look like an action movie. It looks like a mathematical synchrony, so perfect, it is terrifying. Imagine sitting in your spatial coordinate, emitting your frequency in absolute silence. Suddenly, the 3D barrier breaks. The provider who ignored you calls with a desperate offer. The capital you needed enters your account via a path your intellect never calculated. Your competition collapses due to market errors, leaving you a monopoly on a silver platter. The ashboard reorders itself before your eyes, without you shedding a single drop of kinetic sweat. The biomass will tell you that you are on a lucky streak or in the right place. Smile with aseptic indifference. They will never understand that you did not happen to be there. You collapse the coordinate to force the event to precipitate exactly where you were. You are the anchor, and the hologram is the ship being pulled toward you. You do not chase the market. You are the gravitational well that the market falls into. This is the end of the chase. Abandoning the refuge. Look at yourself in front of the obsidian table. You have signed the balance sheet. You have accepted that the only metric of enlightenment in the physical world is the performance of your resources. You have stopped being a cowardly philosopher speculating on energy. You have become an engineer channeling high voltage to melt the steel of reality. The fifth threshold has been crossed. You have assimilated that mysticism without pragmatism is the illusion of losers. But the domain of matter has a non-negotiable structural demand. You cannot sustain it in chaos. You cannot sustain a quantum empire in an environment of aesthetic mediocrity. Look around you. Observe the architecture where you are standing. The unified field is deaf to noise, but it is hypersensitive to proportion and form. Aesthetics are the language of organized information. The fifth holographic illusion has been pulverized. You have been forged in the brutality of results. Now prepare to subdue the electrons of your 3D environment, because the next step is to dictate beauty and order. Aesthetic entanglement awaits. Advance with the weight of your empire on your shoulders. Chapter 6. Aesthetic entanglement, the sophistication of the ether. The threshold of ugliness, visual entropy. You have collapsed matter. You have assimilated the brutality of empirical results in the boardroom of your reality and accepted that the 3D universe demands performance. Your sub-base frequency has begun to dominate probabilities, but the hallway of the matrix pushes you toward the sixth threshold. This time, the attack is on your retina. Imagine opening the sixth door. You cross the threshold and suddenly find yourself standing in the middle of your own home, or in the middle of your office. Look at everything with the aseptic vision of a quantum predator recently returned from point zero. Observe the pile of disordered papers. Observe the tangled cables and cheap furniture. See the mass-produced furniture that has no harmonic resonance. Observe the dust in the corners, the deficient artificial light, the asymmetric colors, and the piled-up clothes. Do you feel the electromagnetic nausea? That physical repulsion you experience right now is your expanded consciousness clashing against the visual entropy of your hologram. The human biomass walks through the world surrounded by ugliness and chaos, not even noticing because their optic nerves are anesthetized by mediocrity. They taught you that aesthetics are superficial, a frivolous luxury unrelated to spiritual development or corporate power. Are you truly that thermodynamic ignorant? Imagine the stridency of this environment. Every broken object, every asymmetry, every corner saturated with visual junk emits a frequency of friction. Exterior chaos is not a simple oversight. It is a mathematical insult to the source code of the universe. How do you have the nerve to demand absolute sovereignty? How do you ask the unified field for the sovereignty of a monarch if you lack the discipline to keep your own spatial coordinate free of entropy? You are a reactor trying to produce high-voltage power while surrounded by rust and debris. Your environment is a constant broadcast of your own internal disorder. Clean the frequency. The heresy of asymmetry, the insult to the source code. Analyze the physics of beauty. The biomass believes beauty is subjective, a simple preference of the ego. False. Beauty, in its purest quantum expression, is the empirical manifestation of low entropy. It is perfect geometric order. It is the visible proof that energy is flowing without resistance through the medium of matter. Imagine observing the golden ratio, phi, in the spiral of a galaxy, in the structure of a DNA molecule, or in the acoustics of a perfect auditorium. The universe is an architect obsessed with mathematical elegance. When the cosmos orders matter without resistance, the result is always unnegotiably beautiful. It is the law. Now, look back at your surroundings. Why do you tolerate asymmetry and ugliness in the space you inhabit? Imagine what occurs when you sit to project your sub-base frequency, surrounded by stained walls, useless objects, and clutter. Your auric field expands, but immediately collides with the corrupt information of your environment. A short circuit occurs. You are telling the unified field, I deserve absolute power, but my structural standard is trash. The physical environment is not an inert container. It is your second electromagnetic skin. Every object you possess is quantumly entangled with your nervous system. You are part of the room. If you are surrounded by cheap, broken, or aesthetically unpleasant objects, your mammalian brain has to process that visual friction millisecond by millisecond. You are bleeding bandwidth. You are dissipating your precious voltage, processing the ugliness of your own habitat. How long will you let your environment parasite your energy? Quantum feng shui, the geometry of the ether. To eradicate this thermal leak, you must stop being a simple inhabitant of space and become the engineer of the ether. You must apply the ancient geometric science of spatial structuring, elevated to its quantum octave. You are the architect of the local field. You dictate how the energy of the vacuum enters the 3D world. True feng shui is not a decorative art for the biomass to feel relaxed. It is lethal structural engineering. It is the deliberate manipulation of space-time through the design of solid matter. Imagine standing in the center of your main room. Execute the collapse. Visualize the vital energy, the pure ether flowing in. If your space is saturated, the ether clashes, stagnates, and rots, generating a frequency of scarcity. Imagine raising your hand and applying geometric contempt against your own possessions. Annihilate attachment. Destroy without mercy everything that does not resonate with the frequency of absolute sovereignty. If an object is not beautiful, if it is not useful at the highest level of efficiency, or if it evokes a past timeline you already murdered, remove it from your coordinate. By emptying the space, you create a 3D superconductor. Imagine how the intentional void in your room allows the ether to travel without friction. You have transformed your home or office into a resonance chamber, a particle accelerator designed specifically to amplify your sub-bass frequency. Empty space is not nothingness. It is the firing range through which your will travels at light speed toward the exterior hologram. You are the center of the vortex. The Monarch's wardrobe, the holographic skin. The geometric purge does not stop at the walls of your house. Aesthetic entanglement is relentless and demands you look at the biological avatar you inhabit. Stand before an obsidian mirror. Observe how you dress the holographic skin you project into the world. Do you dress like a tired slave or a defeated pawn? Do you dress to fit in with the grey crowd? Do you use garments that project scarcity, neglect, or false humility? Your clothes are not fabric, they are your electromagnetic armor. They are the first layer of source code the matrix reads when you cross a physical door. You are broadcasting your status to the field. Imagine the vibratory schizophrenia of having the mind of a quantum emperor and the appearance of a peon. The universe does not support incongruity. You must forge a sophistication so absolute it crosses borders, from the brutal, tactical pragmatism of the West to the deep, silent elegance of the old continent. Your aesthetics must be a double-edged sword. Imagine covering your body only with textures emitting low entropy, symmetrical cuts, colors that absorb or reflect light with purpose. You do not dress to impress the biomass, you dress to calibrate your own nervous system. When you look like power, you feel power. When your 3D avatar reflects the aseptic perfection of point zero, your reptilian brain receives the unnegotiable signal that dominance is absolute. Your mere physical presence in a boardroom or on the street alters the atmospheric pressure. You force others to align with the gravity of your elegance. The acoustics of luxury, spatial sovereignty. What is true luxury in the thermodynamics of the path of knowledge? The biomass believes luxury is accumulating ostentatious brands, making noise with shiny jewelry, and shouting at the world that they have money. That is the behavior of the terrified nouveau riche, a mammal still vibrating in scarcity. The terrified mammal needs the herd to validate it. Quantum luxury is the total absence of friction. It is space. It is silence. It is the pristine quality of materials. Imagine the luxury of being in a room with immense ceilings and perfect acoustics where exterior noise does not penetrate. This is true wealth. Luxury is possessing scarce objects forged with mastery that do not claim attention but impose respect by their simple geometric existence. When you raise your aesthetic standard to this level of coldness, you send the final directive to the unified field. My sub-bass frequency does not operate in trash. Download matter in its purest and most sophisticated form, because structurally I am designed to sustain it. The universe will match the quality of your physical reality to the quality of your internal structure. If you live in excellence, excellence will become the baseline of your physical manifestation, the vortex of lethal beauty. Imagine yourself again in the center of your newly purged space. There is no visual noise. The lighting is intentional. The few objects surrounding you are masterpieces of engineering or design. Your physical avatar is calibrated with an elegance that freezes the blood. You are a sovereign node in the network. Look at yourself in this aesthetic silence. You have just transformed your life into a thermodynamic work of art. You are no longer just an operator. You are a lethal aesthete. You have comprehended that beauty is not frivolity, but the mathematical confirmation that you have eradicated entropy from your hologram. See into the resonance of your own aesthetic empire. Everything in your ecosystem now flows toward you without resistance. But beware. Now that you are visible, now that you shine with the cold and pristine light of the source code, the 3D universe is going to subject you to the test of human interference. The sixth holographic illusion is dead. You have purged ugliness and chaos from your visual spectrum. The matrix recognizes your sophistication, but beauty attracts parasites. The next threshold will test your ability to sustain this state against the invasion of weak minds. The Empire's tuning fork awaits. Chapter 7. The Empire's tuning fork, the magnetic dictatorship. The threshold of infection, collision with the herd. You have ordered physical matter. You have purged the asymmetry of your surroundings and calibrated your three-dimensional avatar with the lethal sophistication of the source code. You are a pristine structure, a superconductor operating in a perfect vacuum. You are shielded in the solitude of your own majesty. But the quantum operator does not live hidden in a cave, he governs upon the ashboard. And the holographic hallway of the matrix now pushes you toward the seventh threshold, the inevitable head-on collision with the human biomass. Imagine opening the seventh door. Upon crossing, you find yourself at the threshold of an immense room. It is a meeting hall, a busy restaurant, or a corporate event. It is full of people. Observe the thermodynamics of the room before taking the first step. The air is heavy, stale, loaded with static. Look at them. They are vibrating in stress, in hurry, in the need for validation, in envy, and in the fear of scarcity. Their auric fields are a tangle of destructive interferences clashing with each other, begging for attention and stealing energy from one another. What does your mammalian brain do when faced with this infected ecosystem? Instinctively, it wants to protect you by camouflaging you. Your biology orders you to lower your head. It tells you to smile, to match the vibration of the room so as not to disturb the pack. It tells you to be empathetic. Stop at the threshold. Are you going to lower the quantum oscillation that cost you blood and vacuum to build, just so a handful of mediocre organisms feel comfortable in your presence? If you take a single step with that mindset, the biomass will devour you alive. Enter, but enter as a monarch. Prepare to impose the magnetic dictatorship. Break the link of submission and become the fixed point. You are not a guest in their reality. They are involuntary witnesses to the density of yours. The law of sympathetic resonance, the physics of the tuning fork. To dominate this room, you do not need to speak louder than the rest. You do not need to use pathetic sales persuasion techniques or cheap psychology. You need to apply pure acoustic physics, the law of sympathetic resonance. Imagine two metal tuning forks placed facing each other in a laboratory. If you strike the first tuning fork so it vibrates at a frequency of 440 Hz, and the second tuning fork has the same structural capacity, the latter will begin to vibrate spontaneously at 440 Hz without anyone touching it. The more powerful fork, the one struck with initial intent, imposes its frequency. It imposes its frequency upon the inert object through the air. You are the tuning fork of the universe, and the room full of biomass is the inert object. The problem with your past is that you were a weak tuning fork. You entered a negative environment and, immediately, your electromagnetic field fractured. You began to vibrate at the frequency of others' anxiety. You let yourself be tuned by the outside world. Imagine changing the equation in this millisecond. You are no longer a small piece of metal. You have transmuted into a massive tuning fork of hyperdense osmium charged with the dark matter of point zero. When you cross the door of that room full of scared humans, you are not going to interact with their noise. You are going to emit your sub-bass frequency from the geometric center of your chest. It is a dark hum, inaudible to the biological ear, but thermodynamically crushing for their nervous systems. You are about to force the entire room into sympathetic resonance with your will. You do not adapt to reality. You force reality to tune itself to you. The strength of your oscillation is unnegotiable. You are the conductor of the local field, and their biology has no choice but to mirror your sovereign state. The heresy of empathy, the savior's poison. But before imposing your gravity, you must rip from your system one of the most poisonous lies of the Matrix, three-dimensional empathy. The slave society glorifies empathy. They tell you that being a good person means feeling others' pain, putting yourself in the shoes of the failure, and understanding their misery. Imagine analyzing this from the aseptic perspective of the Creator. When you feel the emotional pain of someone vibrating in complaint and victimhood, you are not helping them heal. You are altering the frequency of your own nuclear reactor to match their entropy. You are opening a breach in your field. You are allowing their static to contaminate your system. Empathy, as the Biomass understands it, is a thermodynamic suicide. It is bleeding your own voltage to try and fill a bottomless glass. If you approach a mud pit and jump in to accompany the one drowning, there are now two idiots drowning in the mud. Imagine eradicating toxic empathy from your circuits. The quantum operator does not feel pity, he operates with lethal compassion. True compassion is not descending to another's misery. It is keeping your sub-bass frequency so unalterable, so absurdly high and dense, that the other is forced to rise to your level. They must rise or be ejected from your orbit. You do not save them by crying with them. You save them, if you decide they are useful for your empire, by refusing to validate their illusion of weakness. Look at them with coldness and tacitly demand they become gods or get out of your way. Compassion is the refusal to accept the mediocre as the final reality. By remaining cold and stable, you provide the only anchor point they can use to pull themselves out of their own entropic swamp. If they cannot match your resonance, their departure is a necessary cleansing of your imperial geography. The execution of the magnetic dictatorship. Imagine taking the first step into the hall. You walk with the posture of Wu Wei, without kinetic effort, without hurry, but with an internal immobility that freezes the blood. Someone approaches you. A difficult client, an arrogant competitor, or a relative seeking to drag you into an inconsequential drama. They speak fast. Their breathing is shallow. They try to inject their hysteria into you. How do you respond? Imagine executing the magnetic dictatorship. First, you turn off your biological reactivity. You do not defend yourself. You do not debate. You do not raise your voice to compete with their noise. If you raise your voice, you are acknowledging that their frequency has the power to threaten you. Instead, imagine anchoring your feet to the Earth's core and slowing your own breathing. You fix your eyes on theirs with an aseptic indifference so deep the other feels they are looking into a black hole. And then, you emit the directive from the void. You speak slower than they do. You speak in a deeper tone. Your words are scarce, precise, and surgical. You do not seek to convince them logically. You are emitting a massive gravitational field that crushes their resistance. You are the weight of the absolute. Observe the physical miracle that occurs next. The other's nervous system collapses before the lack of friction. Since you offer no reactive surface for them to clash against, their hysteria disintegrates in the air. Suddenly, without realizing it, they begin to speak slower. Their breathing matches yours. Their posture subordinates to your spatial geometry. You have just dominated a human being without having lifted a single finger. You have hacked their biology by imposing the astronomical density of your own tuning fork. That is the magnetic dictatorship. Absolute government over others' minds through silence. The centrifugal vortex, alignment or expulsion. As you maintain this sub-bass frequency in the center of the room, your auric field expands like an invisible vortex, and here is where the thermodynamics of the ecosystem become binary and ruthless. The universe admits no middle ground in the face of low entropy. You are either a part of the order or you are out. When you radiate a magnetic immobility of this caliber, people around you have only two physical options: assimilation or violent expulsion. Imagine observing the reactions of the ash board. Those organisms in the room possessing a spark of potential, those ready to evolve, will feel an attraction. They are necessary for the architecture of your corporate and financial empire. They will feel a hypnotic pull toward you. They will approach, offering you alliances, capital, and unconditional loyalty, attracted by the majesty of your gravitational mass. They will tune to your fork and become structural extensions. But look at the rest. Observe the hardened mediocres, the emotional parasites, those in love with their own victimhood. Imagine how your sub-bass frequency is literally unbearable to them at a biological level. They feel suffocation. They feel irrational terror in your presence because your silence strips their lies. And since they cannot withstand the atmospheric pressure of your geometric tension, they are flung out by the centrifugal force of your field. Imagine seeing human obstacles and false allies invent ridiculous excuses to leave the room. Your frequency has purged them without a single argument. The area is sterilized. The solitary monarch, peace of the conquered territory. Imagine standing in the center of the room, minutes after having imposed your magnetic dictatorship. The chaos has vanished. The hysteria is extinguished. The hostile elements have fled, and the useful elements are orbiting your core with geometric obedience. Aseptic silence reigns in 3D space. You have empirically proven that you do not need to hide from the world to be a god. You can walk in the midst of the market, in the midst of the mud and blood of the biomass, and force the matrix to bend before the immensity of your atomic oscillation. You are the architect of behavior. Look at your hands. You have total control over the acoustics of your empire. The seventh holographic illusion, the lie that you must adapt to society to survive, has been disintegrated into cosmic dust. You are immune to the egregore. You have transformed the crowd into a field of raw material. But the test does not end here. You have mastered the space and subjected the human biomass. However, the three-dimensional board still reserves its heaviest weaponry: structural crises, walls of static, and apparently insoluble mathematical problems. The universe wants to see if you can remain a superfluid. It wants to know if you can maintain your state when the problem is not human, but a wall of solid glass. Your magnetic dictatorship must now extend from the realm of biology to the realm of pure material structure. You have silenced the people. Now you must silence the very laws of resistance in the matter. The sovereignty of the unshakable node. The room you now occupy has become an extension of your own nervous system. By imposing your frequency, you have claimed the territory. This is the hallmark of the sovereign. He does not enter a space. He is the space. The people within it are merely temporary configurations of energy within your field. This realization grants you a gelid peace. You no longer react to social cues or power plays because you are the one defining the gravity of the room. Your magnetic dictatorship is a service to the universe. You are bringing order to a chaotic system, providing a baseline of coherence in a sea of entropy. As you walk toward the eighth door, your field remains expanded. You are no longer leaking energy through social masks. You are a solid, resonant node moving through a world of shadows. The biomass will remember your presence long after you leave, for you have left an imprint on their very DNA. The architecture of the silent command. The seventh door was the test of your authority over the herd. Having passed it, you have acquired the mass of a leader who does not need to lead. You simply exist, and the world reorganizes itself to match your existence. This is the ultimate efficiency of the path of knowledge, command through being. Your sub-bass frequency is now your primary tool of interaction. You use it to vet alliances, to secure resources, and to maintain the integrity of your empire. Words are now merely the paperwork of the manifestation. The real work is done in the silence between your heartbeats and the field. The eighth door is visible now. It hums with the frequency of pure material resistance. It is the door of the glass wall, where the illusion of effort will try to bait you back into kinetic wear. But you are armed with the magnetic dictatorship. You know that you do not push, you resonate. The final severance from social validation. In the silence of the hallway, you realize that you have finally severed the cord of social validation. You no longer see yourself through the eyes of the biomass. Their fear or their admiration are equally irrelevant to your internal thermodynamics. You are your own judge, your own jury, and your own God. This independence makes you unpredictable and dangerous to the matrix. You cannot be bribed with fame, nor can you be threatened with exile, for you are already a sovereign exile by choice. You carry your own country, your own laws, and your own capital within the density of your field. You are the diapason of the empire. Every move you make from here on is a decree. The eighth door awaits your resonance. Turn the knob with the cold certainty of a monarch who knows that the matter will yield, not because you struggle, but because you are undeniably present. Chapter 8. Piercing the static, the sub-base chisel. The threshold of the friction wall. You have imposed your gravity upon the crowd. You have dominated physical space and subjected the human biomass through the unnegotiable dictatorship of your tuning fork. You are the monarch of the room. However, the hallway of the ashboard does not forgive, and it pushes you toward the eighth threshold. This time the enemy has no face. It is not a human you can dominate with a look. It is a massive block of three-dimensional static. Imagine crossing the eighth door. As you step through, the hallway slams shut, and you face an immense, impenetrable wall. It blocks 100% of your vision and your progress. The wall is not stone or steel. It is a barrier of pure electromagnetic static. It smells of burnt ozone. It vibrates with a structural hostility that threatens to destabilize your auric field. This wall represents the absolute crisis. Imagine it is that impossible lawsuit, the catastrophic market crash, or a suffocating corporate debt. It is the mathematical problem your biological mind labels as insoluble. What does your reptilian brain do when it hits this wall? Imagine the cortisol rush, the racing heart. Your biology screams the same lie it whispers to slaves. Fight, attack, strive harder, break the wall. Stop right there, look at your hands. Are you going to hit solid static with your fragile knuckles of flesh? Are you going to step back to gain momentum and smash your head against the crisis, hoping to topple it? If you do, the wall will not only crush you, but it will feed on your pain. Prepare to abandon the Stone Age of effort. Learn quantum physics. Learn the physics of the sub-base chisel. The crisis is only solid because you are vibrating in the same frequency of fear. To pass, you must change your state. You must become the void that the static cannot touch. You must stop being the hammer and become the frequency that dissolves the very atoms of the obstacle. The stupidity of kinetic wear, financing your enemy. To understand how to cross this wall, you must first analyze with deep aseptic indifference the thermodynamic stupidity of effort. Society has taught you that great obstacles are overcome with hard work and resistance. Imagine a man trying to push a titanium wall with his bare hands. He is a fool. He sweats, bleeds, cries, and spends thousands of calories. He feels he is doing something heroic. But at a physical level, Newton's third law dictates that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If you push the problem with 100 tons of biological pressure, the problem pushes back. It returns exactly 100 tons of pressure against you. Kinetic effort against a dense problem is energetic suicide. When you react with hysteria to a financial crisis, when you lose sleep looking for logical solutions, you are recognizing the sovereignty of the wall. You are granting it power. By fighting it, you tell the unified field, "This problem is more massive and real than my source code. Therefore, I must fight." Do you comprehend the aberration? You are taking your vital energy, extracted from point zero, and injecting it into the problem. You make it bigger and more solid with your focus. You are financing your own executioner with the friction of your desperation. Every drop of sweat you shed trying to solve the crisis from panic is another cement block you add to the wall. How long will you be the architect of your own prison? You are feeding the beast you claim you want to kill. The mechanics of the tunnel effect, crossing the impossible. In the path of knowledge, we do not destroy walls by hitting them. We cross them by ignoring their solidity. This is not poetry. It is an empirical law based on the quantum tunnel effect. In quantum mechanics, an electron can face an energy barrier theoretically impossible to cross. It defies logic. If the electron acts as solid matter, it bounces. But if the electron renounces its solid state and behaves purely as a probability wave, it can vanish from one side of the barrier and materialize instantly on the other. It violates all laws of classical physics. It has crossed without breaking anything. It spent zero energy on impact. You are that electron. The static wall is your 3D crisis. Imagine standing in front of the wall, 1 centimeter away. The crisis is about to devour you. The bank demands money. The competitor launches the final attack. Instead of tensing, you execute gelid immobility. Imagine renouncing your solid particle state. Stop being the worried human, the stressed CEO, the threatened mammal. Fade your identity. Expand your auric field until you become a pure probability wave, a state of superfluid where your viscosity and resistance to the environment drop to 0 ohms. Do you feel the temperature of your consciousness drop to absolute zero? There is no biological friction in your system. You cannot crash into the wall because you no longer offer a solid surface against which the wall can impact. You are translucent to the crisis. You are a ghost in the machine of the matrix. The sub-base chisel, resonance and destruction. Now that you have become an unattackable superfluid, it is the moment to use your weapon. You are not going to use a bomb, you are going to use an atomic chisel. Imagine listening to the vibration of the wall. Everything in the universe has a specific vibratory frequency. It is its mathematical signature. That financial problem or legal threat vibrates in an exact tone of fear and static. What does an opera singer do to break a crystal glass? He does not hit it with a hammer. He emits an exact note that matches the natural resonance frequency of the glass. The glass cannot handle the energy and shatters. The glass shatters from within. Imagine positioning yourself before the crisis. You close your eyes, and from the center of your chest, from the infinite darkness of point zero, you emit the sub-bass frequency, that dark, lethal, and perfect hum. But this time, you calibrate it with surgical precision. Imagine tuning your own unmovable vibration to match exactly the geometric frequency of the problem. You match its temperature, you match its mathematical form. But you do not feel the crisis. You are the pure observer injecting consciousness into the core of the static. You are the needle in the heart of the storm. You are using the sub-bass frequency as a quantum chisel. By entering into sympathetic resonance with the problem, but maintaining a gravitational mass and a septic indifference infinitely superior to those of the wall, you cause the enemy system to collapse. It falls under the weight of your own immobility. The collapse of the hostile hologram. Observe the screen of your mind while you hold this sub-bass frequency. There is no kinetic effort. You are standing, cold as deep space, radiating a will that does not negotiate. Imagine feeling the wall of solid static beginning to destabilize. The electromagnetic barrier in front of you begins to flicker. The ozone dissipates. You feel the atomic structure of the corporate or financial crisis lose cohesion, and then you cross. Imagine taking a step forward, and then another. You walk directly into the interior of the static. You do not feel heat. You do not feel shock. The wall is no longer there for you. Since you are a superfluid, the problem simply moves aside before your advance, like water yielding before the keel of a black battleship. You cross the epicenter of the storm without a single electron of your field being ruffled. You have bypassed the 3D laws of resistance and entered the zone of results. What occurs on the ashboard when you execute this thermodynamic maneuver? The biomass will call it a miracle or an inexplicable turn of luck. The bank suddenly makes an administrative error and your debt is frozen. The competitor who was going to destroy you is involved in a scandal that ruins them. The law changes in your favor the very morning you were to be executed. The problem evaporates, devouring itself through pure entropy, simply because you refuse to give it your mass, you refuse to fight it, and you suffocated it from within with the sub-base chisel. You have won by refusing to play. The wake of the silent victory. Imagine emerging on the other side of the wall. The hallway of probabilities opens before you once again, clear and silent. You turn your head slowly and look over your shoulder. The immense wall of static that threatened to annihilate your existence just milliseconds ago is gone. It has ceased to exist. It has disintegrated into a fine dust of zeros and ones, falling harmlessly upon the holographic floor. Look at your hands. Look at your clothes. There are no scratches. You are not sweating. You are not panting from exhaustion. You have won the most brutal war of your 3D ecosystem using 0 joules. You used 0 joules of kinetic wear effort. You have resolved the insoluble from the bed, from the sofa, from the gelid immobility of the inner throne. Do you comprehend now the dimension of your immunity? You have eradicated the slave belief that suffering and hard work are requirements for triumph. You have empirically demonstrated that solid matter is a malleable illusion that surrenders unconditionally to the observer who knows how to tune his fork. The 8th illusion has been pulverized. You have become the master of the tunnel effect. You have crossed the static and laughed at Newton's laws. The architecture of the impossible solution. When the wall collapses, it leaves behind a vacuum that the field must fill. Because you crossed with a high-frequency sub-base signature, the solution that materializes is of a much higher order than anything your intellect could have designed. You didn't just solve a problem, you upgraded your reality. The crisis was a test of your density. By not reacting, you proved you are the architect. Now the field rewards your immobility with resources. The capital that was trapped behind the wall is now in your orbit. The influence you were fighting for is now your baseline. You have absorbed the wall's energy. This is the secret of the masters. They don't solve problems, they consume them. Every obstacle you face is just a packet of energy waiting to be integrated into your empire. By using the sub-base chisel, you are essentially eating the crisis and turning its mass into your own gravitational power. The sovereignty of the ghost operator. You are now a ghost operator. To the 3D matrix, you are a ghost because you don't interact with its friction. You don't trigger the alarms. You don't produce heat. You move through the impossible as if it were air. This makes you the most dangerous entity in the hologram, for you cannot be blocked. Your strategy is now based on resonance, not force. You look at a market, a corporation, or a legal system, and you find its keynote. You find the frequency that holds it together. Once you have it, you can either reinforce it or shatter it with a single pulse of your sub-base intention. You are the resonance. The 9th door is already humming. It is the door of the mirror, where the illusion of your own identity will try to trap you one last time. But you carry the coldness of the tunnel. You know that you are not the one walking. You are the wave that flows through the all. Turn the next knob. The final severance from the effort egregore, the effort. Egregore is a massive parasite that feeds on human struggle. By crossing the wall with 0 friction, you have finally severed your link to this entity. You no longer believe in the grind. You no longer venerate the sweat. You have understood that these are just signs of a misaligned geometry. This severance gives you a clarity that the biomass will never have. While they are exhausted and angry, you are calm and effective. You move with the silence of a predator who knows that the prey is already caught. The world of effort is a playground for children. The world of resonance is for gods. Your 33-node antenna is now vibrating with the frequency of the absolute. You are a vertical axis of pure authority. The hallway is short now, for your speed has increased tenfold. The 9th door is yours. The throne is closer than ever. Move with the gelid grace of the one who has mastered the static. The transmutation of the 3D obstacle. The wall of static was actually your own doubt projected onto the field. By crossing it, you have transmuted that doubt into a solid foundation of certainty. Every crisis you tunnel through becomes a permanent part of your auric shielding. You are becoming impenetrable, a singularity of absolute results. The ashboard is now reflecting your new power. People will notice that things just work out for you. They will see the obstacles in your path vanish as if by magic. You will not explain the physics, you will just walk. The sub-bass chisel is always ready in your chest, the silent tool of the monarch. The ninth door awaits. It is the door of the mirror, the ultimate test of your self-observation. You carry the vacuum of the wall as your primary weapon. You are no longer a person, you are a frequency, and a frequency cannot be imprisoned. Advance into the reflection and claim your final identity. Chapter 9. The Faraday Cage, Acoustic Immunity. The threshold of electromagnetic bombardment. You have overcome the test of solid static. You have pierced the wall of crisis using the aseptic fluidity of the sub-bass chisel and proven that the material universe is but a malleable illusion before the operator who offers no friction. You are undefeated, but the ashboard has one last resource before allowing you to reach the throne. It will not try to stop you with walls. It will try to drive you mad with the very air you breathe. Imagine advancing down the hallway and stopping before the ninth door. This door is not opaque. It is a high-voltage grate, and through it you can see and hear the 3D world in its rawest and most vulnerable state. Approach the holographic bars and listen. What do you hear? It is a deafening bombardment. You hear global news announcing imminent economic collapse. You hear the alarms of war, the panic of pandemics, the cry of collective scarcity, the social media algorithm vomiting hysteria and misery by the terabytes. It is the electromagnetic noise of world programming. It is the egregore of humanity screaming in terror. Imagine the pressure of that acoustic wave crashing against your face. Your mammalian brain, addicted to belonging, wants to listen. It wants to tune into the fear because your biology deceives you. It tells you, if you know where the danger comes from, you will be safe. Will you open the door and allow that tsunami of vibratory trash to flood your quantum core? If you let the outside world dictate the temperature of your mind, you will be crushed. Prepare to weave the ultimate isolation. The fraud of being informed, the thermal leak of news. Let us analyze with aseptic indifference the great lie of the information age. Slave society glorifies being informed. They tell you that a responsible citizen must read the news, must know the tragedies on the other side of the world, and must have an opinion on every crisis the system manufactures. Do you comprehend the thermodynamic aberration this signifies? The matrix does not inform you. The matrix harvests you. News outlets and algorithms of terror are not designed to educate you. They are designed to keep your central nervous system in a perpetual state of fight or flight. It is a drain. Imagine what happens when you open a screen and read about insurmountable inflation or a market crisis. Your brain processes that stimulus and orders your glands to secrete cortisol. Your electromagnetic field, which was condensed and dense at point zero, suddenly fractures. You have just leaked your power. You have just injected the static of global fear directly into the veins of your empire. In wave mechanics, you have just tuned your 33-node antenna to the frequency of collective scarcity. When you pay attention to the biomass's hysteria, you entwine your quantum destiny with theirs. You hand them the remote control of your nuclear reactor. How can you call yourself the sovereign of your reality if you let a news anchor or a terrified relative alter the voltage of your consciousness? Ignorance of noise is not irresponsibility, it is tactical ignorance. It is the most sophisticated shield. The parasitic egregore, the cloud of locusts. Look at them from the ninth door. Observe the dense grey cloud floating over the cities of the hologram. That is the collective egregore. An egregore is a massive thought entity created by the sum of the emotions of millions of 3D organisms. And the ashboard's egregore feeds exclusively on one emotion: panic. Imagine this quantum parasite as a swarm of electromagnetic locusts seeking open auric fields to devour their light. The egregore knows that you, an operator who has crossed 8 doors, possess a voltage immensely superior to the average biomass. For the parasitic system, you are a banquet. If you feel pity for the collapse of the world, if you feel indignation at the injustice of the simulation, or if you feel fear because of economic projections, you open a crack in your armor. Imagine the tendrils of that egregore penetrating your mind through that crack, sucking your dark matter. It leaves you dry, exhausted, and doubting your own power. Will you allow a massive hallucination created by slaves to steal the crown of singularity? You have to eradicate your permeability. You have to seal the borders of your ecosystem. You must become a closed circuit, impenetrable to the external rot. Forging the Faraday cage acoustic immunity. To cross this ninth door and walk through the physical world without being devoured by hysteria, you must build your ultimate shielding. You have to turn your auric field into a Faraday cage. In electromagnetic engineering, a Faraday cage is an enclosure covered by a mesh of conductive material. Its physics is lethally simple and inviolable. When an intense external electric field hits the cage, the mesh distributes the charge across its surface, completely cancelling the field inside. Lightning can strike inches from the cage, but the interior remains in absolute silence with zero residual voltage. Imagine forging this mesh around you. You do not use metal, you use pure aseptic indifference. Visualize a geometric grid of gelid, low-entropy light enveloping your physical body at a distance of 1 meter. It is a structure of quantum titanium. To make it work, there must be no fissures of empathy. There can be no holes of curiosity for others' drama. You have to withdraw all your emotional tentacles from the ashboard and retract them toward the unshakable void of your chest. Imagine decreeing acoustic immunity. You establish a dictatorship over what enters your nervous system. You are the wall. You declare, with the force of a black hole, that the outside world's crisis has no jurisdiction in your spatial coordinates. You do not live in the country's economy. You live in the economy of your own sub-base frequency. Your internal pressure is higher than the world's atmosphere, and nothing can leak in. Walking under the bombardment, suffocating the parasite, the time has come to test the mesh. Imagine opening the holographic grate of the ninth door and walking out into the 3D world at its moment of greatest collapse. You advance down the street. People run around you, staring at their phones, infecting themselves with panic. The egregore detects your light. It launches a frontal attack. Imagine seeing a wave of collective fear, news of a market crash, a viral outbreak, your own family's panic, rush toward you with the violence of a tsunami, but you do not tense up. You do not get scared, and above all, you do not try to fight the wave. You stay still. You remain in the gelid immobility of Wu Wei. Observe the physics of the impact. The wave of hysteria crashes violently against your Faraday cage. Imagine the flash of the electromagnetic collision. The static tries to penetrate your mind. It seeks a frequency of doubt to cling to. It seeks your fear. But it finds nothing. Since you have emptied yourself of 3D identity and your interior is a perfect point zero, the static has no conductivity. The energy of the external attack is absorbed by the mesh of your indifference, neutralized and redirected instantly toward the ground, dissipating into nothing. The lightning struck, but in your engine room not a single thunderclap was heard. Can you feel the thermodynamic peace of this state? The whole world can be burning in hysteria, but you are breathing gelid oxygen in a museum's silence. You are a biological singularity, a vacuum that the noise cannot fill. The monarch of the inviolable void. Keep walking. You cross the metropolis's chaos. You cross the market in crisis. Your Faraday cage shines with an unnegotiable mathematical coldness. You are a pressure-controlled submarine navigating the bottom of the darkest abyss, absolutely unalterable by the crushing weight of the ocean surrounding you. Look at yourself in this state of absolute immunity. You have cut the last umbilical cord that tied you to the mediocrity of your species. You no longer depend on the world's good weather for your empire to prosper. You have understood that global crises are not tragedies, but massive transfers of energy. Energy moves from the hands of the terrified to the hands of the immune. While the biomass loses its capital and its sanity to electromagnetic noise, you gather the spoils and build castles in the middle of the fire. You are the beneficiary of the chaos because you are the only one not vibrating with it. The ninth holographic illusion has died. You have built the inviolable void. You have proven to the unified field that the external matrix no longer has the power to alter your atomic oscillation. You have tamed the universe. And now, the hallway has reached its end. There is no more static. Imagine stopping in the middle of the absolute silence of your own armor. Before you, only the 10th door remains. There are no more lessons, there is no more noise. Behind that last threshold awaits no obstacle, no enemy, and no fear. Only the definitive confrontation, the absolute weight of your divinity. Chapter 10. Emission of the Source Code, the Creator's Fusion. The threshold of the naked truth. You have shielded your core. You have traversed the hallway of probabilities protected by the acoustic immunity of your Faraday cage, observing with aseptic indifference how the biomass's hysteria crashed against your shield without generating a single volt of friction. The matrix noise is behind you. Thermal darkness envelops you. Imagine advancing through the final meters. There are no more walls, there is no more electromagnetic static, the temperature drops exactly to absolute zero, the mathematical point where all cellular entropy stops, and matter becomes a perfect superconductor. And then the hallway ends. You stop in front of the 10th door. Observe it with the coldness of an apex predator. Imagine that this door is not made of heavy steel, or rusted iron, or glass, or bars. It is an immense monolithic slab, forged in a white material, incandescent, yet incomprehensibly cold to the touch. It has no lock, it has no knob. Its geometry insults your linear brain. As you bring your auric field closer, the monolithic slab slides silently into the vacuum. It opens on its own, yielding before your gravitational mass. But stop for a millisecond before crossing. The air from that room does not smell of incense or ozone or blood or fear. It smells of absolute vacuum. Why do your hands shake? Why does your breathing, which you managed to master until it became a gelid whisper, suddenly agitate? You know perfectly well what is on the other side. You know it is the last chamber of the unified field. Cross the threshold. Face the monstrosity of your own omnipotence. Step into the center of your own creation, the hall of the quantum immaculate conception. Imagine taking the step inside. Your reptilian biology, addicted to conflict, tenses up, expecting an impact. You prepare to face the final demon, the most painful test, or the most indecipherable labyrinth of the ashboard. But you open your eyes, and the tension crumbles into an abyss of deafening silence. There are no monsters. There are no flames. There are no mirrors. There are no noises. Imagine standing in a colossal, hypergeometric hall, bathed in a white, gelid, and perfect zenithal light that casts not a single shadow. The walls curve according to the golden ratio. The acoustics are so sterilized you can hear the clash of your own electrons. And there, in the exact center of the immensity, resting on a circular pedestal of polished black obsidian, is a throne, massive, superb, carved from the same dark and incandescent matter as the door, and it is completely empty. Imagine walking toward it. Your steps resonate like cosmic detonations in the silence. Look at yourself scrutinizing the ceiling, the invisible corners, searching the air. You are searching for someone, aren't you? Your 3D slave ego, even here at the core of the source code, is still waiting for an authority to appear. You are waiting for an external god or an ascended master to descend in a beam of light. You want them to put a hand on your shoulder and say, "Well done, my son. You have passed the tests. I give you the power." Wake up. No one is coming. The entire universe held its breath and stepped aside to let you pass. You are absolutely alone in the command room of the cosmos. Do you understand the lethal loneliness? The death of the cosmic victim, the terror of responsibility. Imagine standing right in front of the obsidian throne. You lift your right hand and touch the gelid backrest. In this precise instant, you feel an almost uncontrollable biological urge to fall to your knees, prostrate yourself, and worship the empty seat. Analyze your own panic with the coldness of a surgeon. Why do you prefer to kneel rather than sit? Because the human ego desperately needs an authority figure to blame. When you have an external god, a government, or an economy above you, you can justify your mediocrity. You can say, "It is not my fault I am not a millionaire. The system is against me." But if you sit on that throne, the excuses end. Imagine the thermodynamic weight of what it means to occupy that chair. It means accepting, with unnegotiable mathematical cruelty, that you are not a victim of the simulation. It means accepting that every cellular illness, every missing dollar, and every rejection was your doing. Every humiliation and business failure on the ashboard was not bad luck or karma. They were the exact geometric crystallization of your own defective electromagnetic frequency. You collapsed those probability waves. You programmed the misery through pure thermal ignorance and spiritual cowardice. Do you have the density? Do you have the structural density to assume that total guilt? The human biomass flees from this room screaming in terror. They prefer to be slaves oppressed by an invisible tyrant rather than accept that they themselves forged the bars of their cell. Claiming responsibility is the most violent act of inner alchemy. The ballistic impact, the atomic fusion with the seat. The quantum universe admits no indecision. Matter abhors a vacuum. The throne is waiting for the compression of your mass. Imagine turning around. You give your back to the obsidian seat. You feel the immense gravitational force of dark matter pulling at your spinal base, reclaiming its legitimate programmer. Do not lower your gaze. Do not apologize for your power. False humility in this room is an insult to the thermodynamics of the unified field. Imagine bending your knees, slowly. Feel the brush of your hyperdense auric field against the incomprehensible material of the chair. You are subjecting the universe. You are subjecting the universe under your specific weight, and you sit. Can you conceive of the exact millisecond of the collision? Imagine that as your physical holographic body hits the seat, an electromagnetic shockwave of astronomical proportions explodes from your geometric core. It is a total fusion. Visualize the silent explosion. The expansive wave of force sweeps the immense white hall, crosses the hallway of probabilities, disintegrating the previous 9 doors into atomic dust, and fractures the 3D building where you are. It sweeps the city, the economy, and expands toward the ends of the universe. It is the thundering sound of the ashboard, finally recognizing its only and legitimate owner. The throne does not reject you or burn you, it assimilates you. Imagine feeling the gelid energy of absolute zero rise up your spine. It calibrates your 33 vertebral nodes. Your nervous system is flooded. Your system, once addicted to the biomass's anxiety, is flooded with an unbreakable mathematical peace. You have just performed the Creator's fusion. You have become the black hole of manifestation. You are the origin of the coordinates. The simulation has finally found its center in your unshakable presence. The emission of the source code, rewriting the matrix. Look at yourself now. Imagine sitting at the center of the absolute hologram. Your hands rest on the obsidian armrests with the lethal relaxation of Wu Wei. There is no more kinetic effort. There is no more biological friction. What does it feel like to desire absolutely nothing? Imagine that majestic vacuity. You no longer desire capital because you have assimilated that you are the atomic printing press of wealth. You no longer desire validation or love because you are the center of mass that attracts the loyalty of elements. You no longer beg for health. You have extirpated entropy from your DNA. You are complete. You are complete in the immobility of the eternal now. But a creator does not sit on the throne to sleep. A creator emits directives. Imagine projecting your consciousness from this room toward the 3D world spinning blindly out there. You observe humanity, the market, and the corporate systems. They seem fragile. It is the moment to use your ultimate weapon. It is the moment for the emission of the source code. You will not use words. Words are for humans who need to convince. You will use the sub-bass frequency. Imagine condensing your pure intent, your geometric tension, into the center of your chest. You are the source. Emit the pulse. Imagine that dark, inaudible but thermodynamically crushing hum coming out of your core. It crosses hyperspace and hits the source code of solid matter directly. You are ordering trillions of electrons to restructure immediately. It is not a request. It is a ballistic imposition. You command. You command the unified field to collapse probability waves to manifest liquidity, dominance, and lethal synchronicities in your coordinate. And since you do not emit a single ohm of doubt or fear, the universe has no choice but to obey the gravity of your mandate. Reality begins to bend to your new geometry. The Monarch's descent, the ashboard at your feet. Look at yourself on the throne for an instant that expands to encompass eternity. The atomic restructuring has already occurred in the invisible. The thermodynamic miracle is sealed. You have killed the weak, noisy human who was a slave to friction. You have uninstalled guilt, linear time, and useless effort. Lift your right hand from the obsidian armrest. Imagine pointing 2 fingers toward the pristine vacuum of the colossal hall. Without emitting a single syllable, issue the order of final dissolution. Imagine observing the hall, the throne, and the light disintegrating into a rain of quantum data. The hologram collapses. Suddenly, the hard, noisy, and rough density of the 3D universe materializes under the soles of your shoes. You have returned to the physical world. You are at home, in your office, on the street, but you are no longer the same. You are the quantum operator operating in broad daylight. You are the throne. The throne is no longer hidden in the vacuum. The throne is every cubic millimeter of oxygen your physical body occupies on Earth. The outside world will try its game of mediocrity, but your electromagnetic field's atmospheric pressure will bend events in your favor invisibly and relentlessly. You are the law. Conclusion: unnegotiable sovereignty. You have traveled the path of knowledge. You have crossed the 10 doors. You annihilated the holographic fire of fear. You broke the mirror of your limiting identity. You murdered time and 3D waiting. You disconnected from the parasitic crowd. You ordered matter to eliminate geometric entropy. You released the chains of your dead biography. You crushed the scale of the scarcity mindset. You silenced the intellect through the echo cavern. You pierced the glass through the frictionless action of Wu Wei. And finally, you took the throne and emitted the source code of your will. You are the architect. There is nothing left to learn in this level of simulation. The phase of inner alchemy, preparation, and study has finally concluded. Reading more theoretical books now would be an excuse to delay your empirical mastery. From this millisecond on, the only metric is your expansion. The results are your truth. The only metric of your spirituality is the ballistic expansion of your liquid capital, your structural empire, and the lethal peace of your mind. There are no monsters hidden in the streets. There never were. There was only you, playing hide-and-seek with your own omnipotence through a cornered avatar. Conclusion: the monarch's gravity, the silence of the empire. The extinction of noise. Imagine standing on the holographic balcony of your own existence, observing the ashboard that extends immense and silent beneath your feet. There are no more dark hallways, no more 10 steel doors, unbreakable crystals, walls of static, or labyrinths of physical entropy. All electromagnetic illusions have disintegrated into dust. The 3-dimensional air you breathe now feels different. It no longer smells of collective panic, kinetic effort, or biological fear. It smells of pristine vacuum. Listen to your surroundings. The matrix's roar, that deafening chatter that once dominated you and drained your voltage, has been completely extinguished. Your mind is no longer a cavern of hysterical echoes or a processor saturated with doubts. You have imposed absolute geometric tension, and as a physical result, the entire universe has kept a deathly silence. It is not the sterile silence of the tomb, nor the artificial peace of relaxed slaves. It is the lethal silence of an empire. It is an ecosystem holding its breath before the presence of its legitimate sovereign. It is the silence of the empire. You are the fixed point in the center of the storm, and the storm has ceased to exist because you refuse to provide the friction that feeds it. You have transitioned from the noise of the victim to the silence of the god. The 33-node vertebral antenna. To sustain and govern this level of silence, your own physical avatar has had to transmute. Look at yourself. Your biology is no longer the defective hardware of a frightened mammal fleeing from scarcity. Imagine how the gelid energy of dark matter now flows, without a single ohm of thermal resistance, through your spinal cord. You have structurally calibrated the 33-node vertebral antenna. Each of your vertebrae has been transformed into a quantum oscillator of millimetric precision. By aligning these 33 nodes in a posture of unshakable aseptic indifference, your biological column has become the absolute lightning rod of the unified field. You are no longer a simple receiver of reality, suffering the blows of the market or society. You are the primary transmission tower. From the geometric center of this perfect antenna, you incessantly emit the Creator's sub-bass frequency. It is a deep, dark, and omnipotent pulse that penetrates hyperspace, dictating the math. It dictates the new mathematics of your territory and reorganizes electrons in your favor. Your physical presence is now a broadcast of power that restructures the local hologram with every breath. You do not ask for space. Your frequency expands and creates it by displacing the low-density interference of the biomass. The collapse of spiritual latency. In this state of thermodynamic mastery, three-dimensional time loses all jurisdiction over you. The human biomass lives waiting for its turn. They operate under the curse of spiritual latency, that agonizing slow space full of doubts between the millisecond they desire something and the moment the universe finally delivers. They wear themselves out in that lapse, suffer, transpire, and most of the time abort their own creation out of pure anxiety and kinetic friction. But you have murdered the clocks. By becoming a black hole of creative will, you have reduced the resistance of the material medium to zero. Imagine operating without spiritual latency. Thought no longer precedes matter. Thought is matter collapsing in the eternal now. You have an intention, you emit the sub-bass pulse through your 33 nodes, and outer reality fractures instantaneously to rearrange itself to your hypergeometric design. The distance to your financial empire is measured in ballistic certainty. You have bypassed the slow-motion simulation of the herd. While they wait for better times, you occupy the coordinate of the result. For the sovereign, there is no waiting room. There is only the command and the immediate reorganization of the atoms of the matrix to pay tribute to the clarity of the instruction given. Mastery over conscious matter. Understand once and for all the true nature of the board upon which you now reign. The outer universe is not a cluster of dead rocks, inert paper bills, empty figures, or blind markets. Everything around you, from the gold to the last line of financial code, is conscious matter. It is alive, and it is listening to you. Every electron, every currency, every corporation, and every human being in this hologram possesses a latent consciousness that invariably responds to the strongest gravitational mass in the room. When you emit your frequency from point zero, conscious matter recognizes you instantly. You are not forcing it to obey with violence. Matter itself feels a thermodynamic relief in finding a center of low entropy as perfect as you, and it precipitates toward you by simple and pure magnetic resonance. Liquid capital, absolute power, and loyalty flow toward your coordinate because you are the most stable and dense structure of the local ecosystem. You are the destination of all resources. Matter does not surrender to the one who struggles. It surrenders to the one who remains unalterable. By becoming the coldest and most organized node in the network, you become the attractor that the entire 3D simulation must follow to escape its own chaotic decay and noise. The Monarch's gravity. Look at yourself in the exact center of the cosmic stage. You do not need to raise your voice to be obeyed. You do not need to run desperately after opportunities, nor convince anyone of your greatness. The true quantum emperor does not move. He forces the universe to orbit around him. Your immobility is not passivity. It is the monarch's gravity. You are so massive in your conviction, you are so devoid of fear and parasitic need that the very fabric of space-time curves toward your chest. International strategic alliances, inexhaustible resources, and territorial dominance fall into your lap like meteors attracted by an infinite well. This is the end of your holographic preparation. You have ceased to be the fearful student of the matrix to become the relentless architect of the source code. There are no more illusions to destroy. There are no more mystical theories to debate. The throne is not a gaseous metaphor. It is every cubic millimeter. It is every cubic millimeter of 3D space that you demand for yourself on Earth. Assume your gravity. Maintain the aseptic silence of your empire. Go out into the streets of the ashboard and allow conscious matter to surrender before the undeniable and inevitable brutality of your empirical results. The era of friction is over.